A group of survivors moves through the battered city, chatting nervously about the aftermath of the flood. Apparently, when the waters receded, the corpses that had been submerged started mutating again. They're quickly told to stop gawking and keep walking, no time to waste in this world where danger could be lurking behind every corner. Among them are Doomsday, Yunyan, and others, following along as Suchan leads the group toward his safe zone. Yunyan, looking like she's ready to bolt at the slightest noise, nervously asks Doomsday where Suchan is planning to take all these medical students. Doomsday, always the calm in the storm, reassures her. She explains that the mutant rat men have taken over the area around the University of Science and Technology, making it completely uninhabitable for humans. The medical students, on the other hand, are now seen as precious resources in this doomsday mess. So Suchan has decided to take them to the resettlement area where they can actually do some good instead of getting torn apart by giant mutant rodents. Yunyan isn't having it. They've been walking for what feels like an eternity, and her stomach is growling loud enough to compete with the eerie sounds of the broken city. She squirms in discomfort, twisting and turning so much that the mountains on her chest are getting more attention than anything else around. Deciding enough is enough, she makes up her mind to find Suchan and see if he can help with her hunger situation. But just as she's about to sneak off, Doomsday grabs her arm, stopping her in her tracks with a firm but calm hold. Yunyan looks at her in confusion, wondering why Doomsday is suddenly acting like a protective bodyguard, keeping her from satisfying her hunger. Doomsday doesn't waste time explaining. She reminds Yunyan that if she's with them, she needs to follow the rules and do as she's told. Apparently, wandering off to find food is not on the agenda. Meanwhile, Doomsday's thoughts drift to a vivid memory of Suchan. She recalls sitting on the floor, vulnerable and confused, while Suchan looms over her, acting strangely. His eyes burn with an intensity she's never seen before, fiery and wild. Grabbing her cheeks, he tells her not to be afraid, though that's the last thing his behavior inspires. He mutters something about being a little hot and needing to cool off by any means necessary, because in the apocalypse, personal temperature regulation is clearly a top concern. Suchan suddenly kissed her. A shock of it hit her like a freight train, or what's more surprising is that she didn't pull away. She stayed letting the moment unfold, and things escalated quickly after that. Her body had felt strange, alive in ways she couldn't explain, and what followed was a night of, well, let's just call it a very intense workout session. Back in the present, Doomsday finds herself thinking about how wild Suchan has become since that night. He's different now, more intense, more unpredictable. She can't help but wonder if it's a side effect of the crystal core he devoured. It wouldn't be the strangest thing to happen these days. As the group continues trudging through the crumbling city, Suchan has his own thoughts swirling. He reflects on the aftermath of the flood, knowing that bacteria, viruses, and even the plants will soon start undergoing major mutations. It's not just the monsters they need to worry about. Nature itself is gearing up for a complete overhaul. To make matters worse, many of the resettlement areas are on the verge of collapse due to the shortage of doctors. Medical professionals are like gold in this broken world, and Suchan knows that if they can keep hold of their doctors, they could build their own resettlement area from the ground up. Suchan is confident. Even if new factions rise in the future, he believes they'll have the strength to hold their own. On top of that, Yunyan's discovery of a method to create serums and recovery potions has been a game changer. The harvests have been good, and it looks like their people, including Tian and the others, are recovering well. Suchan knows that when the time comes, they'll be ready to stand by him, giving him the support he needs to face whatever's next. Moreover, he has managed to store all the research equipment and materials from the lab within his dimensional space. His mind, however, keeps drifting back to the Rat King's crystal core that he acquired. Not only did it boost his berserker abilities, but it also gave his physical strength a serious upgrade, as if he needed to hit the gym any less. The crystal core has granted him an additional gift, ice powers. Sure, he can only condense a bit of ice for now, but he's determined to figure out how to strengthen that ability. But the Rat King's core isn't the only prize in Suchan's ever-growing arsenal. The crystal core from the half-body female mutant also added to his collection of powers. This one gave him 2 psychic abilities, which should have thrilled him. But Suchan, being Suchan, is a bit miffed. He didn't get the illusion power he had been hoping for. Shin suddenly picks up on a strange noise nearby, and it doesn't take long for the rest of the group to feel the tension. Everyone grows nervous, senses heightened. Suchan, calm as ever in the face of danger, activates his first psychic skill, gained from the half-body female mutant, spiritual perception. This ability seems to be linked to a hunger for blood because the moment it kicks in, his eyes turn a sharp red, and his aura becomes downright terrifying. With his new power, Suchan can detect the heat signatures of living things within 30 meters, turning him into a walking, talking heat-seeking missile. It doesn't take long for him to notice something off. Another clan's about to ambush them. He can see them hiding in the buildings, waiting for just the right moment to strike. Just as he's about to strategize, someone from Suchan's group spots something horrifying. He points upwards, and everyone's gaze follows, locking onto the grim sight above, a female figure hanging from a traffic light pole. The air grows thick with confusion and dread as the group wonders who did this and how they could possibly make them pay for such a heinous act, because in the apocalypse, revenge is practically a sport. Suddenly, one of the girls in the group realizes that the woman hanging there is Ruru, her roommate. Panic takes over as she urges the others to act quickly, begging them to save Ruru before it's too late. The desperation in her voice is palpable. She can't stand to see her friend in such a humiliating and dangerous state, and time is running out. One of the guys, brimming with a sense of heroism, tries to rush forward and save Ruru, but Suchan stops him in his tracks with a cold, hard stare. Without missing a beat, Suchan tells him to mind his own business, his voice flat and without any hint of emotion. He turns to the rest of the group and orders them to keep moving, dismissing the situation like it's just another everyday inconvenience. No time for heroic detours in the apocalypse, apparently. The girl, utterly stunned by Suchan's ice-cold response, can't believe what she's hearing. She wonders if Suchan even still human. It makes no sense to her. How could someone just stand by and watch a person die when there's still a chance to save them? Others in the group start murmuring in agreement, calling Suchan heartless and worse, questioning whether he's a man at all. Because nothing brings out group criticism like a moral standoff in the apocalypse. Against Suchan's orders, the girl and 3 men decide to stay behind and help Ruru, unwilling to watch someone die right in front of them. The girl gives the command, urging the men to quickly cut Ruru down so she can tend to her. 2 of them rush over to the traffic pole and start loosening the ropes, their hands moving as fast as they can in a race against time. But just as they begin the rescue, a volley of arrows comes out of nowhere, slicing through the air with deadly precision. The arrows hit their mark, piercing the would-be rescuers and sending them to their graves before they even have a chance to react. The sudden brutal deaths hit the group like a punch to the gut. The girl's eyes widen with horror, the realization sinking in. They've just lost 2 innocent lives trying to save one. It's only now, as fear ripples through the group, that they grasp the grim truth. It was a trap. But before they can even process the danger, 2 crazed attackers burst from the windows above them, brandishing axes and grinning like maniacs. In a flash, they surround the girl and the guy who stayed behind with her, leaving them cornered and utterly defenseless. The 2 men, towering like mountains, stand ready to end the miserable lives of the unfortunate souls trapped beneath their shadow. Screams erupt from the helpless victims, panic flooding their faces as they desperately hope this isn't the end of their road. One of the massive brutes grabs the girl by her cheeks, his sharp, dagger-like teeth gleaming as he leans in close. With a twisted grin, and he comments on how kind-hearted she seems because clearly nothing screams nice person like getting attacked by a human mountain. He continues, saying she'll make excellent bait for luring others into their trap. The vile man's hand slides down to her legs, attempting to get a feel of what he believes he is entitled to. The girl, terrified and shaking, clamps her legs shut in a desperate attempt to protect herself from being defiled. Undeterred, the vile man calls over his subordinate, eager to play with her and satisfy his twisted urges. The poor girl is paralyzed with fear and is barely able to think straight. She stares at the monstrosity gripping her head. She begs him to let her go, her voice trembling with terror, but it is futile. Her friend, trying to muster what courage he has left, demands that the beast release her. But he is too focused on the wrong threat, missing the second enemy sneaking up behind him with an axe. Before he can react, the blade comes down and his head is severed in an instant. Blood sprays everywhere, painting the scene in a horrifying splash of red. The monstrous attacker refers to the poor guy as food, chuckling darkly about how he should have been more mindful of his own kind. The girl lets out a gut-wrenching scream as she watches her friend's body hit the ground, chopped up like some grotesque snack. Her cries, however, don't bother the monsters. They find her even more appealing now, discussing their twisted plans to keep her alive for one purpose: breeding. Because in their demented minds, she's got the assets for the job. But before they can carry out their horrifying intentions, her nightmare reaches its tragic climax. In a brutal instant, her torso is torn from her lower body, and she joins her friend in the cold, dark world beyond. Meanwhile, Suchan and his group hear the girl's screams in the distance. One of them immediately recognizes her voice, and Duanya wonders aloud what horrors they've run into now. Suchan, ever blunt, comments that the so-called saintly woman is just getting more people killed. Duanya, curious and slightly horrified, asks if the poor woman who is hanged was actually used as bait, and Suchan casually confirms it. She then asks the question that's probably on everyone's mind: are they safe now? Suchan's answer is far from comforting. He tells her it's the opposite. They're still surrounded by the devourers. All around them, massive monsters watch from the windows of nearby buildings, eyes fixed on Suchan and his group. Panic quickly spreads through the guys as they realize the full extent of their situation. The odds of survival are dropping faster than their courage, and it becomes clear that Suchan is their only hope. With a fierce look in his eyes, Suchan decides it's time to pull out the big guns, his second ability, Corpse Control. He activates it, and a legion of mindless zombies begins to rise from the ground. Suchan grins, saying he wants the Devourers to feel what it's like to be surrounded for a change. Just then, a horde of glowing-eyed zombies charges forward with a menacing roar that echoes through the tense air. The atmosphere shifts as the vile men turn in shock, realizing the threat has crept up behind them. Blood sprays through the air as a powerful slash tears through one of the attackers, their face twisting in agony and rage. One of the vile men, feeling overly confident, swings a powerful strike. With a fierce move, he clears his path like it's no big deal, sending the zombies flying through the air. But then something catches his eye. Suchan and his group have vanished. The monstrous man freezes, his face twisting in frustration as he realizes their prey has escaped. The shock spreads quickly, like someone just told them they're out of snacks. They stand there, alarmed, trying to make sense of how their target slipped away right under their noses. This, of course, sets off the chase. Two muscular men leap into action, charging after Suchan and his group with all the energy they can muster. The orders are clear: catch them and don't let them get away. Just as they crash through a window, ready for action, they find themselves face to face with Suchan. He's already there, standing right in front of them like he was expecting a delivery. His glare is sharp, his eyes locked on them with the kind of intensity that says, "Good luck getting out of this one." One of them sneers as if amused by the whole thing, while the other gets straight to the point, ready to finish him off. Suchan, meanwhile, is completely unfazed. He stands in the smoky air, hands casually tucked into his pockets, wearing a cold smirk. He casually remarks that it's a shame the Devourers don't have crystal cores. But no worries, he declares that his mutated corpses will handle things from here. A wave of zombies with glowing red eyes charges toward the two muscular fighters. The surprise is all over their faces. They clearly didn't see this coming. Soon, the corpses surround the two men, and their struggle for survival begins. Later, the group arrives at a damaged, desolate building under a fading sky labeled as the Haching Safe Zone. However, with destruction everywhere, safety feels more like a distant hope than a real promise. Duanya and Union step cautiously into the crumbling scene, only to be confronted by a voice accusing them of trespassing. Despite the tension, Duanya remains composed, explaining that they come from the University of Science and Technology seeking refuge. Their eyes widen as they look up to see a powerful figure descending from the sky, armed with a massive axe, like an apocalyptic superhero, but without the cape. This man radiates power, and as he grips his axe, the energy around him intensifies, crackling in the air. It's clear he's not here for a friendly chat. He fiercely warns them that they don't accept trash here, demanding that they leave immediately. Without hesitation, Duanya, with glowing pink eyes, uses her mind ability and demands to know what gives this man the right to deny them entry into what should be a safe zone. The man with the axe taps his head, suspiciously asking if she's using some kind of shady trick. Then, wielding his axe aggressively, the man lunges at Duanya, calling her useless trash. Shocked and realizing she's likely under attack, Duanya notices that this man is a powerful ability user. Suddenly, a hand appears in front of her, defending her. It's Xiaofeng, who says, "Stop it," to the big man. Xiaofeng addresses the man as Captain Sun and emphasizes that these people are only seeking refuge and are not a threat. The tension is palpable, but Xiaofeng's plea is heartfelt. However, Captain Sun remains skeptical of the newcomers, gripping his massive axe tighter. He points out that ordinary people cannot easily make it through areas where the Devourers roam and suggests that these individuals might be spies trying to infiltrate their group. Just then, Suchan strolls up from behind, casually suggesting that they take these dozen doctors to another safe zone. Captain Sun's disbelief is immediate. Dozens of doctors? In this world, that's like finding a unicorn. One of his men, equally startled, points out how rare it is for doctors to have survived this long, and another adds, amazed, that Suchan didn't just find one or two. He's got dozens. Xiaofeng stands there, jaw practically hitting the floor upon seeing Suchan alive. He clearly wasn't betting on a happy reunion. It's obvious he had assumed Suchan was long gone, but here he is proving him wrong. And Xiaofeng quickly turns to Captain Sun, passionately defending Suchan and his group, declaring them his friends and even vowing with his life that they aren't spies. He confidently adds that if Suchan says he's got doctors, then you better believe he's got doctors. The rest of the group joins in, trying to persuade their skeptical captain. With Xiaofeng vouching for Suchan and his crew, they plead for the newcomers to be let in, hoping their captain will finally relent. One of the men points out that having doctors could finally put an end to the grim practice of burying patients alive, hinting at the desperate conditions they've been facing. Because nothing says bad day like being mistaken for dead. The captain, clearly not thrilled but seeing the bigger picture, reluctantly agrees to let the newcomers in, but not without a catch. He makes it clear that Xiaofeng will be held accountable if these doctors fail to cure the patients. No pressure, just life or death stakes. With the captain's approval, the group erupts in excitement, welcoming Suchan and his crew inside with visible relief. Xiaofeng, sensing the tension, reassures Suchan not to take Captain Sun's behavior personally. Apparently, he's just a grumpy guy with trust issues. Suchan, never one to mince words, remarks that annoying people are everywhere, especially in times like these. Xiaofeng, however, seems genuinely relieved, saying that Suchan and his group arrived just in time. There are strange patients in dire need of help, and no one knows what to do. As they move deeper into the safe zone, Xiaofeng removes a cloth from a woman lying unconscious. Her body is covered in glowing, circular, mushroom-like growths, and the sight is enough to make anyone uneasy. Yunyun and Duanya stare at the strange growths, with Yunyun wondering aloud if they're actually mushrooms. Because in this world, mushrooms aren't just for salads anymore. Xiaofeng explains that these mysterious growths keep coming back no matter how many times they try to remove them. The woman's condition is only getting worse, and it's clear that these strange fungi are tied to her rapid decline. Suchan immediately warns the group of a new danger, mutated plants spreading fungi. He cautions them to stay on high alert around young plant shoots, as even a simple prick could lead to a serious infection. Duanya, puzzled by the situation, asks if these mushrooms are using the woman as nourishment. Suchan agrees that it's a likely possibility. Meanwhile, Yunyun decides it's time to seek help. She plans to find a way to analyze the mushrooms and hopefully develop a remedy. Suchan quickly grasps the looming danger of the mutated plants. These monstrous creatures, with their sharp teeth and threatening vines, are no small threat. If not handled quickly, they'll grow uncontrollably, spreading across the land and eventually attacking humans. Suchan knows that when this happens, the Devourer's tribes will seize the opportunity, plotting to overrun the remaining safe zones and turning survivors into little more than livestock. Realizing the severity of the threat, Suchan plans to use this base to get ahead of the danger before it's too late. But just as his mind is racing with strategies, chaos erupts. Out of nowhere, a jeep barrels through the crowd with a maniac behind the wheel, yelling at everyone to move aside. People scatter in panic as the vehicle plows forward with no intention of stopping. The driver, a wild, power-hungry man, shouts maniacally, clearly drunk on rage and domination. He fires a machine gun randomly, showing no care for the chaos he's creating. Suchan, ever calm but visibly annoyed, stands unfazed by the scene. He turns to Xiaofeng, questioning why no one is dealing with this madness. There's someone firing a gun in the middle of the safe zone, and yet the team seems to be doing nothing. It's almost like the apocalypse came with a new, no-rules policy. Xiaofeng explains that the team was disbanded. Suchan, piecing it all together, asks if it's because they let these refugees into the city as part of some deal. Xiaofeng confirms, adding that this lunatic in the jeep is the son of the city lord. He doesn't see the elderly or children as useful to the safe zone, so he deliberately harms them. Meanwhile, the son of the city lord spots the newcomers, a sinister expression spreading across his face, because clearly there's always room for more trouble. His jeep continues its reckless path, hitting people left and right without a care as the chaos spirals even further out of control. This fool, Zhang He, leans casually against his jeep, eyeing Yunyun with bad intentions, because apparently the apocalypse isn't complete without creepy guys offering rides. He offers Yunyun a seat in his jeep, promising food to sweeten the deal. Sitting beside an injured person, Yunyun contemplates the situation, concern written on her face. But then an idea sparks. She decides this fool could use a lesson. Putting on her best helpless act, she tells Zhang He that she's so hungry and too weak to walk. Maybe he could carry her. Zhang He, with a sinister grin, eagerly agrees, clearly imagining some not-so-noble intentions as he offers to carry her. He thinks he's in control, but Yunyun's got something much bigger planned. At that moment, Xiaofeng, realizing what's about to happen, sharply warns Zhang He, calling him out by name. But before he can escalate the situation, Suchan calms him down, saying it's fine as long as Zhang He can actually carry her. Zhang He, overjoyed at what he thinks is about to go down, stands tall in his jeep, enthusiastically shouting for Yunyun to hop on, calling himself Big Brother and ready to play the hero, because of course he thinks he's about to win big. Yunyun, her expression now darkened by shadows and her mouth curling into a sly grin, smirks as she looks at him. There's something mysterious and a little unsettling about the way she moves. Then, with a mischievous gleam in her eyes, she jumps toward him, yelling excitedly, "Here I come," as she descends toward Zhang He. who's standing there, arms wide, ready to catch her. But midair, everything changes. Union's size begins to increase rapidly, transforming in mere microseconds into a giant woman. He's enthusiastic grin quickly fades into sheer terror as he realizes his big brother act is about to get crushed, literally. Union, now towering over He, looks down at the smaller man who reaches out in shock or awe, completely overwhelmed by her sudden transformation. He, in his moment of panic, is forcefully thrown backward by the giant Union, the look of pain and shock on his face clearly showing he did not see this coming. While he wanted to carry her, now he's paying the price. He crashes to the ground with a thud, his leg crushed beneath Union's weight. His face twists in agony, the reality of the situation hitting him hard, literally. Union calmly shrinks back to her normal size, standing confidently above him, while He writhes on the ground, screaming about his cracked leg. His voice is filled with terror and he can't stop shouting, clearly in severe pain. Nearby, two men notice the commotion, their faces full of concern. One, holding a gun, spins around and immediately asks what just happened, while a woman with a serious expression demands to know the source of that loud crash. Another man stands by, his face tense, unsure of what's going on. He, still lying on the ground, cries out in both pain and panic, clutching his injured leg. He's frantic, yelling that his leg is broken, his face a mixture of agony and terror. Union, however, stands above him with a calm, composed expression, completely unbothered by his dramatic outburst. Not exactly the hero's welcome he was hoping for. One of the concerned men rushes over, gun in hand, asking anxiously if the young master is okay. He, now visibly distressed and pointing frantically at Union, starts ranting that she's a monster, the girl who turned into a giant and crushed his leg. His voice shakes with fear, demanding that she be sent away immediately. He's clearly terrified of what just happened, and the panic is all over his face. Meanwhile, the other two men listen intently, their eyes narrowing as they assess the situation. But before they can react, Doomsday steps in, her eyes glowing intensely as she taps into her psychic abilities. With a powerful mental command, she seizes control of the two men's minds, bending their will with ease. Under Doomsday's influence, the two men, now with glowing red eyes, speak in a robotic tone, completely under her mental control. One of them addresses He, insisting that he himself got out of the car and broke his leg, while the other agrees, reinforcing the manipulated story. He, now furious and desperate, screams at everyone around him, accusing them of conspiring against him. He points aggressively, demanding that they back off, threatening to call his father and have them all killed. His voice grows louder as he continues to yell for his father, his desperation showing in every word. Nearby, a muscular man watches the chaos unfold, his sinister smile spreading as he remarks that things are about to get interesting. Because nothing spices up the apocalypse like a little family drama. Moments later, a luxurious vehicle screeches to a stop, complete with sharp motion lines and dramatic sound effects. Armed guards quickly form a defensive line around the car, their presence making it clear that someone important has arrived. On the other side of this tense standoff, a few individuals stand around with He still lying injured on the ground. Feng, seeing the grand display, curses under his breath, realizing that He actually called for the city lord. Union, with her usual calm, remarks that the city lord sure knows how to make an entrance. Just then, the city lord steps out of the car, his voice booming as he demands to know what's going on. Feng steps forward, trying to explain that Suchan and his group brought dozens of doctors seeking refuge, but before he can finish, He cuts him off, whining to his father, demanding that they all be killed because his leg hurts. Priorities, right? But what happens next surprises everyone. The city lord, rather than siding with his son, slaps He across the face. The public watches in shock as the city lord scolds his son, reminding him, for the umpteenth time, to treat everyone who comes here with respect. He warns He not to give him any young master attitude, and to stop acting like a spoiled brat. Looks like daddy's had enough. The city lord then turns to address the crowd, his voice strong as he declares his ambition to turn this place into a beacon of hope in the apocalypse, where everyone who arrives is treated with warmth and dignity. The gathered crowd erupts with comments, impressed by the unexpected display of leadership. One person mutters in awe that even the city lord's own son gets punished when he's wrong, while another marvels that such a noble-hearted person still exists in the apocalypse. A third simply comments, "Now that's a truly kind soul." The city lord continues, extending a sincere invitation to all those present to stay and help build this dream together. He promises the best food and the most generous living conditions. The crowd erupts into cheers, with the newly arrived people shouting, "Long live the city lord." One of them excitedly declares that this lord is amazing and he's definitely staying. Apparently, a little kindness goes a long way in the apocalypse. Coughing. Feeling relieved, turns to Suchan to tell him that everyone can stay now. But as he turns, he realizes Suchan is gone. Confused, he wonders where Suchan disappeared to, because Suchan always manages to vanish when you least expect it. Meanwhile, just outside the safe zone, Suchan, Duanya, and Union sit around a bonfire. Union, always curious, asks Duanya why they aren't staying in the city. Duanya points out the obvious, that after Union crippled the city lord's son, there's no way the city lord wouldn't eventually seek revenge, because no one forgets when you break their kid's leg. Union, suddenly realizing this, admits that it looks like they'll be sleeping in the woods tonight. Then, with a flustered face and a mischievous grin, Union jokingly asks Duanya if she could teach her, since it's her first time. Duanya sighs, wondering what on earth Union is thinking before commenting that they might not even get to sleep tonight. Priorities, right? Union, startled, asks if that's because they have too much energy. Just then, Suchan, ever the calm leader, approaches and tells them to stop messing around because someone is coming. He shouts toward the trees, calling out for the friend lurking nearby to show himself. The men hiding, clearly planning an ambush, realize they have been spotted. One of them, a bald brute, mutters in surprise that he didn't expect Suchan to be so vigilant. The group of thugs emerges from the shadows, one of them warning Suchan and the two women that they thought they could cripple the young master and sneak away so easily. Suchan, unfazed, taunts them at the word escape, explaining that he didn't want to go on a killing spree in the city and accidentally harm his friend's team, because mass destruction isn't exactly polite guest behavior. The bald man, laughing mockingly, dismisses Suchan's words, pointing out that he's unarmed and clearly outnumbered. Another thug, getting impatient, suggests they stop wasting time and finish him off. Without saying much, Suchan steps forward calmly. In one smooth motion, he punches the thug in front of him, and within an instant, the man's entire upper body vanishes. The bald man's cocky grin vanishes, replaced by panic. His face drenched in sweat, he stammers, completely shocked. One punch, and he's gone. Reality hits him hard, and it's clear they'd massively underestimated Suchan. The bald man frantically orders his subordinates to start shooting. Bullets fly, but Suchan moves so fast he's practically a blur. None of the bullets even come close. Effortlessly, he wields two swords, one in each hand, slicing through the attackers in mere seconds, leaving no one standing. He reaches the bald man, sword pointed right at him. Terrified, the bald man drops to his knees, begging for his life. Desperate, he promises to reveal a secret about the city lord if Suchan spares him. Suchan, unfazed and calm, tells him to continue. Because if you're going to beg, at least make it interesting. In a shaky voice, the bald man confesses that the city lord has been trading with the nearby Devourer's clan every week. Startled, Suchan presses further, asking what kind of trade. The bald man hesitates before revealing the horrific truth. The city lord exchanges refugees with the Devourers in return for food. Union, shocked and furious, can barely hold back her anger. She demands to know if they've been trading living people to the Devourers. The bald man, now tied up with ropes and swaying bullets, insists it's all the city lord's doing, as if that's going to save him. Following the bald man's lead, Suchan and his group are taken to the location where the exchange happens. As they arrive, they witness a monstrous devourer choking a man. The devourer of the chilling voice casually explains that rotten food will be dumped at the gates of the safe zone just before dawn, as if it's the most normal thing in the world. With a menacing expression, the devourer tightens its grip around the man's neck. Without warning, it opens its jaws, bites down on the man's neck, and pulls his head and spine clean out, devouring it in one gruesome motion. Union and Duanya stand frozen, shocked by the brutality of what they've just witnessed. Union covers her mouth, her eyes wide with disbelief at the sheer horror of it. The bald man, visibly shaken and sensing his time might be up, pleads with Suchan, reminding him that he's told them everything he knows and asking to be let go. But Suchan, with a confident and slightly sinister smile, responds calmly, "Not so fast." There's still something he needs from the bald man, because in Suchan's world, mercy is always a little more complicated. Later, the bald man finds himself in a precarious position, literally. He's hanging from a rope in the middle of a road, shouting desperately for someone to help him. His pleas are heard, but not by the friendly kind. A group of Devourers from the monstrous clan approaches, intrigued by the sight. One of them wonders aloud why there's a person hanging there, while another shrugs, saying they don't care, they'll just beat him up and take him back. Because when you're a Devourer, why question when you can punch? The first Devourer rushes forward, ready to strike the bald man, who frantically tries to plead for mercy. But before he can finish his sentence, the Devourer cuts him off with a cruel grin, completing the phrase, "You're my next meal." Just then, a massive figure emerges from behind the bald man. It's a giant monstrous creature. Well, Not quite. It's Union, down on her knees, casually holding the rope tied to the bald man. She looms over the Devourers, clearly in control. One of the Devourers, eyes wide with panic, shouts for the others to watch out, realizing that Union is an ability user. But Union, with her usual mischievousness, simply grins and declares that she'll be taking one of them as her new toy. Without hesitation, she grabs the Devourer who dared to punch the bald man, wrapping him tightly in her massive hand. Because in Union's world, playtime is just getting started. Meanwhile, one of the Devourers spots movement in a nearby building and warns the others about an ambush from above. Sure enough, Suchan and Duanya are watching from one of the windows, observing the situation. Suchan, ever the strategist, calmly mentions to Duanya that the Devourers have mutated further and their skulls are probably tough enough to withstand bullets. Duanya, with her sharp eyes, simply smirks and responds with a challenge of her own, declaring that she'll try 3 shots in one. She fires her gun, and with impeccable precision, the bullets pierce through the heads of 3 Devourers standing below. The remaining Devourer, now in a full-blown panic, stammers that 3 shots came from the same spot, but before he can finish his sentence, Duanya takes him out with a single headshot, because Duanya doesn't waste time with second chances. Back on the ground, one of the Devourers still trapped in Union's grip struggles to break free. But before he can make another move, Suchan appears out of nowhere, having swiftly dealt with the rest of the enemies. With one clean strike, he finishes off the Devourer in Union's hand, ending the fight with ease. Later, inside one of the rooms in the safe zone building, Duanya casually asks Suchan how he figured out the deal between the city lord and the Devourers. Suchan, leaning back with that ever-calm expression, explains that he had heard rumors about many resettlement bases doing these shady trades. Today, he was just testing his theory. Who knew they'd actually hit the jackpot on Corruption Day? The room itself is far from shabby. There's a luxurious bed, something Suchan pulled from his handy dimensional space, along with some food. Duanya is lying on the bed, wearing a rather questionable dress, as if they're not in the middle of a Doomsday scenario, because apparently even the apocalypse has room for fashion choices. Duanya looks at Suchan and suggests that if he wants to establish a resettlement base, he could always find another place without getting tangled up in this mess. Suchan, ever the practical one, points out that building a base from scratch takes too much time and effort. Instead, he needs to find someone reliable and competent to run things, and he believes that person is right here in this safe city. Duanya, catching his drift, replies with a simple, "Oh, I see." Before the conversation can go further, Union bursts into the room, dressed in a rather naughty costume. With a mischievous grin, she teases Duanya, asking how she could possibly start without her. Duanya, ever calm, playfully agrees and tells Union to join in as well. Apparently, teamwork really does make the dream work, even in the apocalypse. Suchan, watching this unfold, raises an eyebrow and asks, what exactly are they up to? Duanya, with a sly smile, replies that they want to thank him properly. After all, in this Doomsday, being able to live like normal humans is a luxury. So tonight, she promises they'll serve him well. Because what better way to show gratitude than with a little post-apocalyptic pampering? Meanwhile, as dawn breaks, the city lord stumbles upon the bald man who's been severely injured by the Devourers. Jumping to conclusions, the city lord mistakenly believes something went wrong with the deal between the Devourers and himself. In a panic, he immediately rushes off to the Devourers' clan to sort out the mess. The leader of the Devourer clan glares at the city lord, his voice heavy with menace. He informs him that his men have been severely injured and that the Devourers lost 3 warriors. For compensation, the city lord must now send twice as many people or there will be no deal. One of the city lord's men, shocked, mutters, "Double." But the city lord quickly silences him, assuring the Devourer leader, no problem. It's a deal, because when it's Magra life on the line, bargaining becomes a lot easier. Just then, Suchan appears, stepping into the tense scene. With a calm yet sharp tone, he comments, as expected of the city lord, trading away other people's lives. The city lord, caught off guard, demands to know why Suchan is there. Suchan, never one to miss a chance to stir things up, responds that he had heard rumors about the city lord's close relationship with the Devourers and came to check things out for himself. And let's be real, when Suchan's around, it's never a friendly visit. The leader of the Devourers narrows his eyes, realizing that Suchan must have been the one who killed his men. He sneers, impressed but irritated, saying that Suchan is bold to show up alone in his territory. The leader doesn't know how Suchan managed to kill his warriors, but he's confident Suchan won't be leaving alive. Because, of course, every villain has to throw out some overconfidence before things go sideways. The city lord watches the exchange and smugly comments that Suchan is doomed, but his mind quickly shifts back to the base, thinking there must be something wrong with the people who followed Suchan. He plans to deal with them next, Without wasting any time, the city lord orders his subordinates to wrap things up quickly so they can return to the resettlement area. Back at the base, the city lord gathers the public and spins a tale of betrayal. He accuses the outsiders, Suchan's group, of being traitors who snuck into the base pretending to be doctors, only to kidnap refugees and trade them with the devourers for food. As the crowd listens, whispers and murmurs rise. One voice questions, trading with devourers. Another adds, these are beasts. Kill them. Tension builds as the people start to turn, anger bubbling over. But just when things seem ready to spiral out of control, a man steps forward and shouts for everyone to wait. He explains that, as far as he knows, Suchan is a trustworthy and reliable person. Suchan was the one who brought these people to the base, so there shouldn't be any issues with them. The crowd was stunned by the appearance of General Gao, recognizing him as a powerful figure. Whispers spread as people questioned who Suchan must be if even someone like General Gao vouched for him. Eyes turned to the city lord, who sneered, doubting Gao's intentions. He challenged the general, questioning how he could prove that Suchan and his group weren't traitors, demanding evidence to back his claims. High above, Suchan made his presence known from atop a building. The city lord's disbelief was palpable, wondering how Suchan could still be alive after everything. General Gao, also surprised, recognized the young man who had caused such a stir. Standing confidently, Suchan held the leader of the devourers as captive. He taunted the city lord, suggesting that the devourer himself reveal the truth. Trembling and defeated, the devourer leader begged for mercy, but Suchan's command was clear: the truth must be told. With no other choice, the devourer leader admitted that the city lord had been the one making deals with his clan, exchanging refugees for food. The crowd erupted into a chorus of shock and betrayal. The realization that the man they had trusted had been trading human lives for supplies hit hard. Angry voices filled the air as the people cursed the city lord for deceiving them. The city lord, now desperate, tried to spin the situation, accusing Suchan and the devourers of conspiring against him. But before his lies could spread further, General Gao stepped forward, fury in his eyes. Without hesitation, Gao punched the city lord, the blow heavy with the weight of betrayal. The city lord's laughter, unhinged and wild, filled the air as he admitted to everything. He justified his actions by claiming that in a world overrun by devourers, sacrifices had to be made to keep people fed, even if it meant trading a few lives. General Gao, disgusted by the city lord's cowardice, struck him again. For Gao, it was not about survival at all costs, but about standing firm in the face of the apocalypse without becoming a monster like the devourers themselves. The crowd, watching this exchange, realized the depths of the city lord's corruption. Suchan approached General Gao after the confrontation, proposing a new path forward. Together, they would build a new base, a place that stood for true human civilization. I hope that you liked today's video, and if you did, hit that like button, as today's like goal is 1,500 likes. Comment part 6 down below for the next part. Also, consider subscribing with the notification bell on to get notified as soon as a new video drops onto the channel. You can also join the channel to support me financially and watch videos before public release. I'll meet you in the next video. Until then, thanks for watching.